Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. If you're joining us for the first time, which quite a few of you, including your speaker, are today, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And I want to extend a huge, big welcome back to absolutely every single one of you, because we are basically in our first couple weeks of the school year. Last year, we did over 400 programs together featuring the coolest scientists and explorers on planet Earth, and we have kicked off this year with an absolute bang. I think we're on program number 25 already in September, which is insane. We've had people that have skied down to the South Pole. We've had people who have been to the bottom of every ocean in submersibles. We have done a whole bunch for our New York City Climate Week, so lots to explore and discover on our site and beyond. And everything we do goes to our YouTube channel. So you can check this out in like 3 weeks, in 3 years, whenever you're fancy. Go there and check out over 3,500 past broadcasts. Now, I'm so excited today because we are welcoming in as part of the Climate Week, Mark Terry. Mark Terry is the Executive Director of the Youth Climate Report. So he has decades of experience in documentary filmmaking, and today he's going to share a little bit about his globe-trotting work to get youth around this planet sharing their own videos, telling their own stories. It's one of the most exciting things we've featured in quite some time, and hopefully it inspires your classroom to get involved as well. So without further ado, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to the broadcast.
Well, thank you very much, Jesse, and hello, everybody. So glad that you're joining us here today. I have what I think is quite an exciting opportunity. This is a program that I do with the United Nations, and it's called the United Nations Youth Climate Report. And as Jesse mentioned, I travel around the world, meeting young people like the ones you see in this picture, and training them how to make short documentary films about climate research, climate impacts, possible climate solutions, and basically climate experiences that young people have had around the world. And when these short little films are made, they're added to a database that looks like a digital map of the world. Think of a Google map, right? And all these little videos are situated based on where the stories take place. Now, what's great about this is this particular project is used by the policymakers of the United Nations as a resource. So when they need to see what kind of climate emergencies are taking place around the world, they can go to specific countries and click on your video and actually see the report that you created. Okay, so we're going to talk about how those films get made. I'm going to show you one of them and give you an opportunity to participate in the program. Okay, so here it is, the Youth Climate Report. That's the poster, and all those little frames represent a screen grab from one of the 1,000 plus videos that are currently in the Youth Climate Report database. So the United Nations has a program for young people designed to give students like you the opportunity to make short films on climate change. The films can be animated, they can be cartoons, they can be interviews with scientists, explorers, and other climate experts, or stories told by you of your experiences with climate events. The videos you make help the United Nations better understand how climate change affects you. It's your chance to tell world leaders what you want to see your future look like. So I'm going to share with you two interfaces of the Youth Climate Report. There's a 3D version and a 2D version. And right now we're going to look at the satellite view. That's the 3D version. And there's an URL down there you might want to copy. tinyurl.com/YCR-satellite. And I believe Jesse might be putting it on our screen today to help you find that. We're just, thanks, Jesse.
I was just going to say, I'll put it in our YouTube chat in just a second, and I'll email it to all our classes at the end so you can follow along with everything Mark's sharing in a second too.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Okay, so I'm just going to click on this and show you what it looks like. Here we go. We're going to open Google Earth, and this is the project, as you can see. So it is a three-dimensional satellite view of the Earth, and you can move it around. This is the fastest way to travel the world. Okay, and let me just come back to it. I popped out for a second, sorry. And each one of these little colorful pins that you see here represents a video. So if I were to click on, say, this one over here, what pops up here is a frame grab, a little thumbnail of the video, and then lots of information you can see underneath here. This is called metadata. This is an information that's very important to the policymakers and basically anybody else that wants more information about the content of the film. So for example, it has the longitude and latitude coordinates of where the story takes place. It has the name of the filmmaker and the school they're affiliated with, and of course the title of the film. It also has the category, and this particular film happens to be about climate literacy. Now, she also interviews a few scientists in this particular film. So if you want more information on those scientists and the work that they do, there is a link provided here under Climate Researcher Profile. And if you want to share the video without sharing the entire Youth Climate Report project, we provide the YouTube link for that as well. And we also provide the country, so you know exactly where in the world the story takes place, and the year of production. That becomes very important for certain climate stories. And I'll give you an example. If you were to do a story about a glacier that's melting, and you started with a video made in 2015, and then you went ahead 10 years to 2025, and then went back and filmed the same glacier, we can compare the two. This is called a temporal analysis, right? We can compare the two to see how much ice has disappeared in 10 years. So this is how the policymakers use it, and this is how valuable it is for you guys to contribute. Okay, so just to show you, you can click on the video from here, and there it is, and it'll just play. Just like that. And I'm not going to play the whole video. I'm just going to, I just wanted to give you an idea of what that looks like. I do have a video for you. I'm going to share a little later. But anyways, that's the 3D version, the satellite view. So everything you can see in that image is actually taken from a satellite. So you're getting an Earth-specific and an Earth-accurate depiction of the Youth Climate Report project. Now, if you prefer the 2D version, this is a little flatter, and it's on the UN's website. And this is how you can look at the various films that have been created for the project and learn a little bit more about how you can contribute. So I'll just click on that. And here you are. You see up here, it says United Nations Climate Change. This is their website. And there's a little background here about the Youth Climate Report. And there's a nice picture of one of our reporters. And also a button here if you want to contribute to our social media channels. I highly recommend that you subscribe to all our various channels, because what that does is it gives you up-to-date information as to call for entries and training sessions around the world. So if you want to know when you can deliver a film or how to do it, you can access us through our social media channels. So again, there's some more information here about what the Youth Climate Report is like. And then there's this two-dimensional map of the world. And if we click on that, I'll show you how we can interface once again. So it's the same sort of setup. We can zoom in from here, and we can collapse the map legend so we get a better view of the world. And here we are. So this is North America. And once again, remember that little video I clicked on made by Mava Gauthier? Well, here it is again in two-dimensional format. So once again, you see the same little thumbnail and the same information that we looked at before. Okay. Now you can do that with any video around the world. Here's one in Greenland. See, what are the effects of melting glaciers on sea level rise? And then these ones here sticking out in the middle of the ocean, believe it or not, were contributed to the project by Greta Thunberg. This might be a name you're familiar with. She's the young climate activist from Sweden that made quite a stir a few years ago, and she's still working on it. She contributed 4 little videos that she made. And you can go anywhere in the world just by moving the map around. Okay. You can even go way over here. Let's see what's here. Okay, here's a video from the Philippines. So anyways, this is a good way to to watch all the various videos that have been contributed to the project by young people just like yourself. And once again, there's a quick little URL here that they'll be available for you in the description of the YouTube video once this presentation is complete. So, what are the aims and objectives of the Youth Climate Report? Well, there's 3 of them. And the first one is to provide short, 3 to 5 minutes, movies of climate change impacts from around the world to the environmental policymakers of the United Nations. The second is to provide an opportunity for young people around the world to have a say in global environmental programs that will shape their own future. That's very important. And finally, to give opportunities to as many young people as possible to participate, especially those living in remote parts of the world. This is one of the unique features of the Youth Climate Report. We just don't put out an email and say, hey, send us your videos. We actually go to places that might not have the internet, that might not have equipment or even knowledge on filmmaking. And we seek out these places so that we have a greater representation of climate data and youth voices from around the world. So, how do you make these films? Well, first of all, no special camera is needed. So don't worry about having some sophisticated Hollywood pedestal camera. You don't need that. You see this little guy here is filming using just his phone. And you can do that by activating the video feature on your phone, and you can do all the filming that you want that way. Now, if you don't have a phone, you don't even need a camera at all. And that is possible. You might have heard of a program called Zoom. It's a video conferencing software similar to the one we're using now. And this is where you can set up an interview with a climate scientist or an expert or an explorer anywhere in the world. You get them on Zoom and you record your conversation. Okay? And once you're finished the conversation, the Zoom automatically makes a video and puts it on your desktop. You can use that video and add some pictures and other video to make your little film story. So you can use your laptop. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your stories. It can take place anywhere in the world. It doesn't have to be where you are at the moment. Okay, if you want to tell a story that's happening in Australia or Switzerland or Egypt, you can do that. Find a climate story like forest fires in Australia or flooding in Africa, melting ice in the Arctic, hurricanes in the Caribbean, or climate activism in Europe. These are just a few ideas. A lot of young people often ask me, what can I do a story on? So I'll throw out some ideas here, but it's really up to you. Whatever story that you think is important, that needs to be told, by all means, do a story on that. Now, you can find a scientist, a professor, a climate expert, or an explorer, as I often say, from that country by searching for them on Google. Now, once you find them, send them an email and ask them for an interview on Zoom. Prepare questions ahead of time and then share them with the person you're going to interview before you get on Zoom. That way they know what you're going to ask and they'll have their answers better prepared. Record your Zoom interview and add pictures and video to it afterwards. Remember to give your video a title and add your name as the director. These are very important considerations for the United Nations. When they look at films, they're always looking to make sure it has a title and it has your name as the director. And when you're finished, upload your 3 to 5 minute film to YouTube and send the link to us at the Youth Climate Report using this email address. That's ycrtv1@gmail.com. That address again, ycrtv1@gmail.com. Now I have a little video to share with you to show you the kinds of films that are made for the Youth Climate Report. Enjoy.
Have you noticed any changes?
Well, there's been a lot of changes. We get late freeze up in the fall. Like we used to travel, start driving dogs over the ice in the middle of September. In October, we used to build igloos.
Every year it's different. Like it can get warm or it can get very cold. The water sea level has risen a little bit ever since I was 13. Like I looked at the ocean sometimes when I was 13, 14, 15 to 19. Water level has been getting higher and higher.
Well, I've noticed that there's less beach to walk on, and there's a lot of permafrost melting. You can see here, there's a lot of erosion happening. At that time, the shoreline was way out, and I had no problem driving a vehicle over and behind my house. But now, in 2015, 3 storms took most of it, close to about 20 feet off of it, and it's just been getting worse and worse ever since.
Those are things that I go to bed worrying about, whether or not there are going to be char 40 or 50 years in the United States, or what's going to happen to our caribou. And these are all linked to climate change. And so that's what really drives me to work on behalf of this issue.
I just think that kids should be very aware of climate change, and I think that we should all take it serious because we are the next generation and we can make a change in the world. People may doubt us, but it's what we have the power to do anything. Like what my dad said, he always said, have determination and effort, and nothing will be impossible. So yeah, just be aware, prepared.
I like your words, Ariel.
Thank you.
So there you go. That's an example of one of the films. It's just a few minutes long, but you saw how important the issues were that were being described in that little video. Now, when that was sent to the UN, they were so impressed by the young people that made that film that they flew them out to Madrid for COP25. That was the UN Climate Summit in 2019. And this picture here shows the same young people you saw in the video sitting at a press conference table, giving a press conference to the world's media, telling them about the story of climate change from their community in the Arctic. Isn't that great? So this is one of the benefits that comes out of making these films. If you tell an intriguing enough story, the UN will want to hear from you and bring you out to address the world. Now, classroom workshops are available. So for teachers who would like their students to participate in this unique UN program, a digital workshop plan is available. And we have the same email address, ycrtv1@gmail.com. Please contact us and we'll set you up. So for the social media people, once again, these will probably be in the description of the YouTube channel, but I'm just going to go through them quickly so you can see them. We're on Instagram, Facebook, X, and YouTube. And the websites, once again, these will be provided, but there's the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change website, the UNESCO website, that's United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. We have Google Earth that we looked at. We have the project itself, it's the website, and the research related to that project is at Young Lives Research. Now, the Youth Climate Report is a nonprofit organization and a registered NGO of the United Nations. We do take donations, and if you're interested in doing that, please go to youthclimatereport.com, and thank you in advance for your support. For more information about youth activism, especially in the world of climate change, there is a book that I wrote called Speaking Youth to Power, Influencing Climate Policy at the United Nations, and it's available on Amazon, and there is another URL down there for you. And that completes my presentation, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you about it anytime now.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Mark. And if you want to come out of screen share so you can see us again, have a bit of a conversation, that would be lovely. YouTubers, feel free to chime in with all your questions now. We've had a few written in while you're getting out of that too, so take a second to sort that out. I will note we have all the URLs that we've been talking about the whole time. So Youth Climb Report on YouTube. You can check out the videos. I'll make sure all our classes have these as well when the broadcast is done. Extra ways to keep the learning going and contribute your own if you're so inclined. My first question, or the first question we got, is how did you get started in this? You have decades of experience in documentary filmmaking. Was there a specific thing that prompted you to start working with youth in this way, or was it just a lifetime of leading to this as an avenue of sharing stories?
Well, it began back in 2009. I did a documentary on Antarctica called The Antarctica Challenge, A Global Warning. And that film was the only film to come out of Antarctica that year that was broadcast around the world on various television networks that addressed the research of International Polar Year. It was taking place back then. And the United Nations was quite interested in it, so they asked me to send them a copy. They watched the film and then invited me for the very first time to a UN climate summit. And there I showed the film. The policymakers really reacted well to the visualization of the research. This was important to them because previously they were just reading scientific reports and a lot of it was going over their heads sometimes. So, but by seeing a video showing the research being done and the methodologies and the findings, it provided a better context. There was a visual context to the written text, and that really helped them have a fuller understanding for when it comes to writing policy. So they asked me to keep doing this. And the next year I did another one on the Arctic. And when I showed that, they said, can you do something for youth? We like this idea of film and video, but we also want to open our doors to young people, because that was a criticism the UN had quite a bit, that young people don't have a seat at the table. And so they thought that this opportunity might provide that for them.
Fantastic. Mark, good for you, man. One of our questions, and you talked about people donating near the end of the broadcast. One of the questions online is, how is this funded? Is this a UN-funded initiative? Is this something that you're doing on your own? Anything you can share with us?
Yes, there's the UN does not fund projects like this because it is kind of externally operated. I'm not in the big UN office in New York because it is kind of an academic research project. The UN does not financially support that in any way. So what we rely on is research grants and support and donations from the general public or other NGOs and environmental organizations.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Ms. Romaine. And please do share more questions on YouTube. We'd love to hear back from you guys if you have more queries. Mark, before we got underway, I mentioned that we had a Ghanaian class signed up for today, and you mentioned that you have a great relationship with folks in Ghana. How do you incorporate the Global South? This is a group of, whether it's South America, Australia, Africa, Southeast Asia, that typically don't have their stories heard in as comprehensive a way. How do you get them involved to begin with, and what sort of success have you had with that?
Well, we have a lot of great partner programs conducted by schools and universities throughout the world, and one of them is based in Ghana. We work with a university there called GIMPA, and that's in Accra, the capital of Ghana. And we partner with another university here in Canada, in Waterloo, Ontario, called Wilfrid Laurier University. And between the two universities, we have a program called the Ghana Youth Videography Program. And what we do each year is we find out where climate stories need to be told in the country. And then we work with the youth from Ghana to go to these places and make their videos and tell these stories. And when their videos are complete, we have a wonderful kind of mini film festival that showcases all their work, and it's open to the public and the media. And this kind of attention really helps in getting their films noticed by the United Nations. And then we add them to the Youth Climate Report map project. Now, we have similar programs like this throughout the world. There's another one in Ecuador, which is part of the global south as well. We have others in South America and Australia, of course. We have one in Singapore, and there's one in Copenhagen that's been around for quite a while, about 40 years, I believe. Foundation for Environmental Education. Their program's called Young Reporters for the Environment. They all feed us videos for the project.
This is a great that note is a great lead into our next question, which is how often do you get videos? So you highlighted this whole global map of them. Is it like videos every day? Is it one big blitz for any festivals? What's the deal?
Well, the various programs that we're partnered with will provide a bunch of videos at one time, and that can range anywhere from I'd say 20 to 300. We got 300 this year from one program. So it can be quite a big volume, but it's always open. It's always open. We have a deadline of the end of October, only because the COP conferences, the UN climate summits, take place in mid-November. So in order to get the videos for that particular year showcased at that UN climate summit for the same year, we have that kind of deadline. But it doesn't mean you can't deliver a film after that as well for the next COP conference.
Yeah, you highlighted this beautiful story of tuk folks ending up in Madrid for the conference. Is this something that happens regularly? Are there tangible sort of solutions that have come about in the world because these sorts of stories have been shared at the UN? I know that's a big question, but I'm really curious.
No, it's absolutely true. The Tuktoyaktuk story is a great example of the UN showcasing their problem and getting the government of Canada to actually respond. And this is an age-old story that goes back to 1967, where all the letters written to the government, I'm thinking of Newfoundland and Fogo Island here, asking for help and support were relatively ignored. And then when they showed a video showing how desperate their situation was, then the government acts. So the visual medium of film seems to be extremely important in convincing policymakers to act. And the same thing happened in Ghana. One of the videos that we had there talked about taking plastic waste, melting it down, and forming it into bricks and walls. And these bricks and walls were used to manufacture homes for the homeless. So they actually solved two problems with this video, getting rid of their plastic waste, recycling it, and providing homes for the homeless. Now, when that video was shown at the UN, 3 other countries that watched it incorporated the same program for themselves.
Amazing. How cool is that? I love it. Yeah. I mean, we live in a video realm as well, so it is quite amazing how much you can really excite and inspire people with these short form stories. It really is an amazing thing. So kudos to you.
Thanks.
You talked about a few different approaches and solutions that have come about and been shared in these videos. Is there a kind of story you particularly are most keen on sharing? Is it Arctic conservation? Is it marine plastics? Is there something that really gets you up out of bed in the morning and gets you excited to highlight things to the UN?
Well, my own personal fascination in the climate change world is the melting of the poles, the Arctic and Antarctica, in particular the glacier collapse that's taking place there, because these are large chunks of ice that is basically land ice, which means it's fresh water. And when they break off, extreme large volumes of fresh water are being added to the salt water of the oceans they fall into. And this upsets the ecosystems at both ends of the earth substantially. You know, with all this extra fresh water, the fish and the marine life that are used to more salty waters can no longer remain. They have to move. And of course, sea levels are rising because of this. It changes the temperature. Exposed rock, when the glacier ice collapses and leaves the rock behind, is dark, and that absorbs the heat from the sun, which causes the glaciers to melt even faster when an endothermic reaction goes further upstream because of the hot rocks. So stories like that are very important to me, and luckily we have a lot of young people who work on research projects in these parts of the world. So they get to tell these stories on a regular basis. And the regular basis is very important because we can see the gradual decline and we can see how significant it is. And that's what the policymakers need to see for them to do something about it.
It's been fascinating for us because we do 40, 50 broadcasts every single month with scientists and explorers and communicators all around the world. And polar programs get double, triple the audience of everything else that we do. Like if we have something in the Arctic or Antarctic, it is quite remarkable how much of an impact that has. So I'm glad to hear that's something that's a unifying factor for you and for the UN youth and beyond.
Yeah.
Mark, time flies and you're having fun. So we are nearing the end of the broadcast. Is there I mean, you have provided so many resources to keep the learning going. Again, I'm going to be getting all of these to all our classrooms. There's almost too many for me to share. It's great. Good for Nav. Is there a final message you want to leave our kids with today to inspire them to submit their own videos or take a look or anything else?
Yes, I want to tell everybody to at least try to come up with a 3 to 5 minute video about a climate story that's important to you. Make sure that you care about the story and that it is important to you, because that passion will translate into the film that you create. Remember, you don't need a fancy camera. You can do it with your phone. You can do it with your laptop by interviewing somebody on Zoom. But put those little videos together, make it a class project, make it an individual project if you like, send it to the email of ycrtv1@gmail.com, and you will have a direct impact on global environmental policy through the United Nations.
Couldn't be cooler than that. I wish that opportunity existed when I was a boy.
Yeah, me
kids,
too.
get out there, go enjoy. Yeah, right. Like this is the thing. We both had to walk uphill both ways in the snow and write like a letter and deliver it in the Arctic to some MP. Now you can just make an amazing video and maybe end up in Madrid. Sounds
there you go. That's true.
Mark, thank you so much for your passion, expertise, all of it. We really appreciate you coming on. We will wrap up the broadcast there. So a big thank you for joining us as part of our Epic Climate Week series. This program and all our others are going to be on YouTube. We'll wrap up there, and do stick around for after the broadcast is done for a second. But for now, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day.